Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about what is a 401k and why you should use it. So, just to get started, a 401k is a account that is offered through an employer. So, a 401k is called a company sponsored retirement plan, but it's where employees can contribute and invest for their retirement in that plan. So, what happens is an employee would sign up for the 401k plan, or in some cases, they are auto enrolled, which means upon being hired, they automatically get enrolled for maybe 1 or 2% of their income to go into the 401k plan. And usually it's a little bit of every paycheck. So if you sign up for 1%, 2%, 5%, 15%, that percentage comes out of every single paycheck and goes directly into that 401k account and is automatically invested. Normally, those 401ks will offer what you might hear as target date funds. So you might see like a 2065, a 2060, a 2055, a 2050, and it would select based on your age what year or close to what year within that kind of 5 year range would best fit your end retirement goal. And then what that fund will do is get more conservative the closer you get to that year. Because the closer you get to retirement, traditionally you want to be a little bit more conservative. There also might be maybe like 10 to 15, sometimes 20 other options that you could customize yourself. But the idea is the money comes out of your paycheck, goes into the 401k, and is invested in those funds automatically. So all you really have to worry about is changing the percent you are saving. Now, when you're looking at 401ks, there's traditionally two types of 401ks. So you have your 401k, your traditional 401k, or you might hear it referred to as a pre tax 401k. In most cases, if you're talking about traditional 401k, people usually just say 401k. That's the assumption. And then if you're talking about a Roth 401k, they usually make sure to say Roth in there. So these are the two basic types. Traditional 401ks are pre-tax. That means it comes out of your paycheck pre-tax. It lowers your tax burden this year and then grows tax deferred. So when you withdraw the funds in retirement, you will pay tax on everything inside that account. Whereas Roth 401ks, they are made in after tax deductions. So there's no kind of benefit this year when you contribute to a Roth 401k, but everything in that account will be tax free in retirement. So when you're trying to figure out which one you should use, we have another video on Roth versus pre tax things to think about when you're making that decision. Just know those are the two main options. One you will see also in some 401k plans is what might be called an after tax 401k. That is slightly different than the Roth and can go into a completely different realm of investment opportunities to kind of maximize your retirement savings. I am not going to get into that in this video, mainly because it is very limited in the companies that do offer that. And primarily, most companies just do the traditional 401k and the Roth 401k. Now, as far as a Roth 401k, it is a defined contribution plan. That means it is the employee and employer can make contributions into the account up to a set dollar limit. So, what we've kind of seen in recent decades is that 401k plans have become much, much more popular than your quote unquote defined benefit plans. And defined benefit plan, think of that as a traditional pension. So, what we've actually seen is there's really about maybe 30% of households actually still have pensions. And most of that 30% is concentrated really probably in like older baby boomer generations, still living silent generations. When you get into Gen X, millennials, Gen Zs, very, very low percentages of those age groups actually have pensions made available to them. Primarily, almost everything is moved to this defined contribution plan. Um, And what we'll kind of get into here is some of the differences between the two. And I'm going to move my face out of the way here because a lot of times you'll hear, well, why can't we still have a pension? Pensions are really good. My father, my grandfather, my mother, my grandmother had a pension and they loved it. And there's give and take on both sides. So here's just a couple of key differences. With 401k, contributions are up to the employee and employer. So you can decide how much you want to contribute. You can decide when you want to contribute, when you don't want to contribute, and an employer can decide what they want to match, how they want to match. With pensions, contributions are only decided by the employer. So there is a set algorithm they have to meet. They have to fund a certain amount, but it is up to the employer. The employee has no say or no power on that. With 401ks, employees control the investments. It's different. So with a pension, the employer runs the investments. There's no option for the employee. 401ks, contributions belong to the employee after they leave the job. This is probably the biggest thing with pensions. Pension benefits are based on salary and tenure, which means if you leave the job, you might have a portion of a pension. The other big thing is if a company decides that they want to stop their pension plan, well, you only have a certain amount of accrued benefit. So if you say you're planning on a pension, you're working with a company, they've had a pension, you're maybe 10, 15 years in, and they decide they want to move from the pension to the 401k plan, they might offer some benefits to try and allow you to catch up. You'll still get maybe some benefit, some pension payout, but it might stop. But it puts you in a very difficult place where the full pension you were counting on is no longer necessarily available to you. And you've lost probably 10 to 15 years of really good potential 401k growth. So it's something that it's no control of your own, but it's really subject to the company and what they want to do. So, as much as people really like pensions and think of them as non risky investment avenues or non risky assets, they can be dramatically risky. The last thing is the company fails, employees may not get their full benefits. There are, I cannot remember the acronym, but some government agency that insures benefits, but not to the full amount if your company fails. So if your company fails and you're playing on that benefit, then it can just be hardship for you from then on out for not getting the full amount, even though you worked there and gave them your time and sweat and hard work for decades and decades. With a 401k, the money's all yours. So if the company fails, it doesn't matter because the company is not holding the assets. If you put money in a 401k, that 401k is in your name. And with the employer match, if you're fully vested, which we'll get to in a second, that money's also in your name. So I always kind of say it this way 401ks allow you avenues to build wealth, to make sure your retirement's covered, but also to build wealth. Pensions don't really allow you the avenue to build wealth. They're designed just to keep your salary going. It's designed to give you a payment, but not necessarily designed to really allow you to build some wealth because the pension isn't worried about how much wealth the employees can accumulate. The pension is worried about paying you what they told you they would pay you every single year. So it's not a matter of, man, let's continue to grow this, grow it, potentially leave some to my kids at that point, like you can with a 401k, or if I don't use all of it, have some flexibility. The pension's going to essentially be another social security check for you in retirement. They're going to pay you what they pay you. And you just have to make sure your budget fits within that. Especially with a pension as well, you might not have a pension that has a cost of living adjustment. So they might pay you, say, $60,000 your first year of retirement. But if your retirement's 25, 30 years, well, think about the equivalent of 60,000 30 years ago, how much that would cover you because inflation is going to continue to go up. Your expenses are going to continue to go up. Healthcare is going to continue to go up. But that 60,000 might stay the same and it will not go as far after 15 or 20 years as it did in the start of your retirement. Whereas that 401k being invested can continue to grow with you. So there is some differences. There's pros and cons to both. I personally like the amount of control the employee has on a 401k. as opposed to a pension being kind of left for you to figure it out yourself. But that's some good information just to kind of say, all right, well, since we don't have pensions all that much anymore, kind of a good side by side. Now, jumping into contributions or contributing to a 401k plan, the maximum you can contribute to a 401k plan changes year by year. So it just adjusts for inflation on an annual basis. For 2023, you can contribute 22,500, and for workers over 50, they can contribute an additional $7,500 to that 401k plan. And that's what the employee can contribute. That's not counting the employer contribution. If there's a profit sharing amount that goes in that 401k plan at the end of the year, or their employee match that goes in there, that's just the employee contribution. So you can put a very significant amount into a 401k plan. As far as the employer match, some employers choose to do a match, some employers choose not to do a match. The match can vary from job to job. It's not a set thing. But once the employer's match vests, it's fully the employees. The employee has full ownership. So any contribution you make into a 401k as an employee is 100% yours. Whether you're through the vesting schedule or not, it's your contribution. It's 100% yours from day one. Vesting refers to the employer match. So if the employer say matches 5%, so you put in 5% and they'll put in 5%, that employer match might vest immediately. Some companies will have an immediate vest, so you're vested day one. Some companies will have like a tiered vest, so it might be 20% over 5 years. Some companies will have like where you don't vest for the first 2 years and you vest 100% at the end of year 2. Again, it can be kind of whatever they want within a certain range. But what that means is once you are vested, all the employee contributions you have, or all the employer contributions you have received, and all the employer contributions you will receive are 100% yours as soon as they hit the account. So if you were to leave tomorrow and you're fully vested, you're going to be able to take that entire 401k balance with you, because all of that money is yours. So that's what vesting is. As far as how do 401ks grow, first off, they grow by employee contributions. So the contributions that employees make or employers make, they grow. Secondly, they're invested, and that's going to be the bigger thing. Is these are not bank accounts, so you're not putting money in there and it's going in savings. If you were only seeing growth based on the dollar amount you put in, you would never be able to retire, because you would never be able to build enough wealth in order to live on for 30 years without having it invested. So the biggest kind of way your 401k grows is by being invested in those target date funds we talked about a little bit earlier, or that list of mutual funds that you will see available in there. And you're going to see some volatility. So you'll see the account balance rise and fall. So we're in 2022 right now. So you probably seen your account balance fall this year. But if we look back at 2021, you probably saw your account balance grow significantly then. So you'll see it rise and fall year to year. What you'll see over time is you'll develop like an average annual rate of return based on how aggressive or conservative you are, and you'll see a steady growth over that. But when you're thinking about investing, you're thinking about 401ks, thinking 5-10 year periods, because even when you're getting into retirement, it still needs to be invested, because you still need it to generate income for you as you go through retirement. So you have that base target date funds, the stock and bond and mutual funds that you can kind of invest depending on how aggressive or conservative you are, or if you're not sure, just pick the target date fund that closely matches your retirement date. But it's going to be investment growth, which again, naturally, and I'm saying this a lot because I want to stress its importance, is going to be a lot of ups and downs, but you're going to see over time that growth come into that account. So as far as growth over time, I wanted to show you kind of this because I think this is a great way to show it. And what I want to really show is these charts get much, much steeper later on. So what you're looking at is Jack invests $200 per month starting at 25. His total contribution over his life is $96,000. So what we're looking at is growth on this is well over 96,000, but it's a slow build. So there's a compounding effect. So when money grows, it compounds over time. So if you have $100 today, grows a little, that growth then grows on top of it, grows on top of it. So it snowballs over and over and over again. So the bigger these account sizes get, that's where you're going to see a lot of the growth. So traditionally, what you'll actually notice is if you work from 30 to 60, most of your growth in your 401k is going to come from 50 to 60. That last decade is going to be where you really see a lot of that growth come in. So if we look at Jack here, at 50, he's at maybe 180,000. Well, if we're at 60, he's a little under 400,000. And then from 60 to 65, he's jumped almost another 150,000 right there. So, I mean, you're looking at way more of that growth in that second half because, again, you're slowly building here. And that's why starting a 401k is so important to start early. And that's why with the pension to 401k example, where if you're 10 to 15 years in and you're counting on a pension, but the pension stops, you've missed a lot of great growth potential for that 401k, and you're having to play a lot of catch up. So you can really see how starting at different time periods here for Jack, Jill, and Joey really put them in very different places for their retirement. And again, this is very much going to be based on your individual needs, your individual retirement goals. So this is a good example, but do not take this as I can do $200 a month and be fine. Definitely suggest you meet with a planner, walk through what your expectations are for retirement, where you sit financially right now, and go over this. And we also have some videos on contribution limits, some rules of thumbs, some kind of general where you might want to contribute, what you might want to contribute to, the percentage you would need to contribute. So you have to think through a lot of different variables. But what I wanted to show you this is just really showing that compounding effect here of contributing to that 401k and its growth over time. So biggest thing, are you taking advantage of your 401k? If you're not, I highly recommend you do. If you are just getting started, take advantage at least up into the match of the 401k. I think most financial planners would agree that taking advantage of the 401k up into the match is essentially just free money. If your employer matches 5% and you're not putting 5% in, you are leaving money on the table for yourself. So at least get started doing the 401k up into the match. And then I would recommend meet with us, meet with a planner to kind of go into a little bit more details. But this has been kind of a wrap up of what a 401k is, how to use a 401k, kind of some of the ins and outs of a 401k. Feel free to check out our other videos, and thanks for listening.